right now, but it is 8 o'clock and we have Sherry here, or Carrie here with us tonight, and I'm sure she's got lots of information to share. So Carrie, take it away on Hot Topics.
All right, thank you, Betty. I do have a lot of information to share, and we will definitely leave some time at the end for questions, as we always do. So I will go fairly quickly and do a fairly high level of this. We are recording this, so we'll be able to pass this on to others who might be interested. And also for those of you, and I know a lot of you are, district executive council members, committee members, we will be doing an extended version of this at our DEC meeting January 30th. So don't feel overwhelmed if you think you have to understand everything today. We will get to a lot more things in a bit. So let me share a PowerPoint. Hot Topics. I was given the topic of the contest season shuffle, but since you can't see my feet, I won't really have to do a little soft shoe for you, but I will give you hopefully some good information. First of all, as most of you know, we have to have online live contests in the area through the district. That came from Toastmasters International, and what we mean by live is not recorded. The contestant and the judges have to be live together, judging the event with all the contestants and all the functionaries together. So the club, however, sits outside of that group. As a club, you have the ability to do pretty much whatever you like. Of course, we would like you to have a contest because contests are great, and we're going to talk about some of the advantages of having contests a little bit later. But if you're struggling with membership, if you don't have enough people to have a full-blown contest showing up every week in your club, you can select your contestant however you like. You can have someone volunteer, and if they're the only volunteer, you can send them forward. I really would encourage you, however, to try to have a contest, again, because it's educational, and that might be a way to draw members who aren't coming very often in. If they have a role and they know you're needed for the contest, that may be a way to draw guests in. If you're having a contest, it's an event that you can try to have. So the first speech that we're doing all the way through district is the humorous speech. We're going to talk a little bit more about what it means to give a humorous speech in a little bit, but the other, as most of you know, there's more levels beyond the district. And the international speech, the winner of the district has the opportunity to move on to those other levels, including the World Championship of Public Speaking. Now, you notice that box that I have that says online only is only around area to district. That's because, to my knowledge, Toastmasters International has not made the decision as to whether the World Championship will be online or not. I know that's been a topic of debate. So at this point, I cannot for sure tell you whether that will be in person. So let me move on. As I said, we're going to do the International Speech Contest and the Humor Speech Contest. These are both 5 to 7 minute speeches. If you've been to a contest before, you know you get 30 seconds of runoff on either end before you're disqualified. We always have had in the rule book, given a technical failure, you get an extra 30 seconds. Now, typically in a live event, the technical failure is of the timing device, so that you don't necessarily know what your time is. However, on an online event, technical failures now include internet failure. If you're a contestant and your internet freezes up, we, as the contest functionaries, wait a reasonable amount of time, and you agree in advance with the contestants what that is when you're doing your briefing to the contestants. If that person can get back on, which usually takes a minute or so, they start over. They do not start over. They start from the last thing they said, keep going. Very difficult to do, I understand, but if you let them start over, they could, maybe somebody could mess up and then say, oh, my internet failed, I'm going to start over. No, they get to start over, or they get to start from where they ended, and they get an extra 30 seconds. If it happens again, you can let them back in again, but they don't get another extra 30 seconds. If it happens a third time, they're done. They can be judged on what they completed, but they don't get to keep going. That's a new rule. What are some of the things about both of the contests? You have to be a paid member of the club in the area, division, and district. So as I can't choose to compete in an area that I'm not a member of. I can't choose to compete in a district that I'm not a member of. I have to go up the chain where my club stands. And the club must be in good standing, which means you have to have at least 8 paid members. Now, that's going to get interesting when we get to districts, because by the time we get to districts, there will be another dues due. So you have to pay your dues, and at least 7 other members of your club have to pay your dues before district spring conference, or you are not eligible. With the humorous speech, this speech has to be a speech. It can't be a monologue. It can't be a stand-up routine, a bunch of one-liners. It has to have a speech format, has to have some content, has to be humorous, but not just a bunch of jokes. For international, and that is actually a rule, not just at my opinion. For international, there's a few additional considerations. You have to have completed level 1 and 2 of any path, or if you were a member before Pathways was adopted in our district, and you completed 6 speeches in your Competent Communicator Manual, you're good. But a new member can't go and do some speeches out of Competent Communicator because that's not valid anymore. Down on the bottom here, I've put the where to find the World Championship of Public Speaking. If you haven't watched that yet from last year, because it was all online, definitely go watch that. Get some pointers from how those contestants presented their speech. How did they use the camera? How did they use the room? That will give you a huge step up from your competitors. I can't, oops, hold on, I'm over here. Click on the wrong thing. There we go. I can't stress enough to go read the rule book. If you are the contest chair, if you are the chief judge, if you are the contestant, or any, especially those 3, or any other functionary, go read the rule book. One reason I want to, an example I want to give is many, many years ago, we had a member of our club that won the district international speech contest. He was a phenomenal speaker, and that was his goal, and he did it. He did not realize that he needed another speech for international. And I believe back in the day, he needed 2 other speeches. He needed one for regional and another one for international. That I might be recalling that wrong. But now your district speech moves on to regional, but you do need another speech for international. So there's some things in there as a contestant, As the contest chair, as the chief judge, we're trying to brief you on everything you need to know, but it's your job to know. It's your job not to break the rules. It's your job to know. One of the new things, and the rule book was revised February of 2020. If you think about that, that was before COVID. That was before they decided to be online. The rules haven't changed. We have to adapt them a little bit for online, but the rules are the rules and they still stand. One new rule that I really want to point out is no callbacks. And what a callback is when the third or fourth speaker in a speech contest during his speech says, like Mary said, blah, blah, blah. That is no longer allowed, because if Mary was the first speaker, she didn't have the opportunity to do that in her speech. And that can impress judges and make you seem like a more impressive speaker by doing that. No more of that. Not only can you not reference something they said, but you can't even reference the person. You can't even talk about Mary because she was a previous contestant. So that's a new rule. Make sure everyone knows that. And below is where you find your speech contest rulebook. Don't use last year's. There are several new things, including this. When I read through the new items, they felt to me like they were things we were already doing, maybe just clarifying, but definitely read through it, make sure you understand, especially if you are in charge. So, building a team. At minimum, the people who are going to organize the contest organizer, we often call this, in real life, we call this person the paper wrangler, who kept everybody on track. The contest chair is usually the MC. At the district level, the program quality director and club growth director, are by definition the contest chairs for our contests. Chief judge, if you're not aware, the chief judge does not judge the speech contest. The chief judge takes care of the other judges. And a new thing that I would recommend you have is a Zoom master, or whatever else you want to call it. The contest organizer can be the Zoom master. I wouldn't suggest that the contest chair or the chief judge, do any other roles. So one of the things the Zoom master will have to do is put the ballot counters and the chief judge in a separate room, separate Zoom room. And if there is a challenge of originality or some other challenge, the Zoom master will also have to put the judges and the contestant in that room at various times. So very important that that person is familiar with Zoom. Hopefully we don't have to worry about a lot of that, but it's good to have it all ready to go. Contestants, clearly you need contestants. Start recruiting those, start talking it up, getting people to want to do this. Voting judges, we do have requirements for judges too, along from area on up, that there are eligibility requirements for judges. You have to have a tiebreaker judge. No matter how many judges you have, it is mathematically possible to have a tie, because each judge is giving a 1, 2, 3 points to their first, second, and third point contested. And those points can add up in weird ways. So make sure you have a tiebreaker judge. If you don't need that tiebreaker judge, you don't even use that person. 2 timers. This is normal. Same, we still have to have 2 timers, even in online. More of a challenge because the timers aren't sitting next to each other. Make sure they have their cell phone numbers so that they can text each other back and forth and say, this is what I got. This is what I got. Okay, good. Ballot counters. Again, they're not together, but they will be put into the same Zoom room together. And I would say make sure everyone has the way that you're going to contact each other. Texting works fine. But as I said, all of the same rules that we used to have to follow, we still have to follow. We still can't share our information. The judges, when they mark their ballots, they need to destroy that ballot. The only thing they send on to the ballot counters are their 1, 2, 3. And I know electronically, it's easy to share things, but you have to trust your judges, and you have to make that very clear in your judge's briefing beforehand. So that's the team you need. If you are, if we were doing table topics or evaluation contests, we would need a sergeant in arms, we would need a test speaker, but we're not doing those. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick before I go to Q&A is why should you compete, or why should we even have contests? I've heard a few people say, you know what, we just skipped the contest again this year. And we had to skip them last year, most of them. It's COVID, no one really wants to do it, it's online, I'm not up for it. Well, there's a lot of reasons why we're not going to skip our contest this year. First of all, for the challenge, for the competitors. If you're wanting to compete, do you have a message that you want to deliver? Can you present effectively online? Can you deliver a humor speech without the laughter of an audience? And these are skills that you might need. If you want to be interviewed on television, for example, you don't have an audience, live audience often. If you want to have a podcast, you don't have a live audience. You're going to have to know these skills. How about for everybody else? Well, it's educational. For the functionaries, who I mean all of those extra people, the judges, the chief judge, the ballot counters. Judging is different than evaluating. It's a different skill. Hopefully you want to take the opportunity to help out your fellow Toastmasters. And you get to hear some great, awesome speeches. And sometimes from people that you don't normally hear speeches from, which is great. Build community, meet Toastmasters from around the state, and finally, let's have fun with this. Let's treat it seriously, but let's think about the member and make it work for everyone. I ran a little bit over what I wanted to say, but I want to leave plenty of time for questions. So I will stop sharing my screen and let me know. Feel free to jump on and let me know, or type in the chat, either one. I'll try to monitor the chat. Does anybody have questions?
I have a question.
All right.
How do we use the District 19 Zoom account? How do we access the breakout rooms?
That is a great question. You need to be a host or have the host key, and I or any member of the trio can give you that host key. Or if one of us are going to be at your event, we can serve as the host for you.
Well, my question is, though, how do you use that host key when you have it? I have a host key.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know where to put that host key to use it.
Down at the bottom, like if you look at your participant list right now, I am the host, so it's maybe I can't see the same thing you're seeing. If you look at the participant list, there's usually 3 little dots, or sometimes, and it depends on if you're on a different kind of computer or whatever, but there's usually a more. And if you
not on what I've got, okay. But this isn't when we're in club meeting either. So.
Right. So the first person that gets on that is not a host can click on those 3 buttons, and there's an option that says claim host. So if Betty or I or Chris potentially or Matthew were to get on first and we are the host of your meeting, you can't claim the host because I'm already the host. So that won't show up right now. I can't demonstrate it for you. But I know for a fact it works. I've done it. Other people have done it. So you claim the host and you put in that key and then you become the host and you can do anything that the host can do. You can make other people co-hosts. You can mute people. That's another point I wanted to make. Typically, they say it is best practice to have all of the audience have their cameras off. I know it's a bandwidth thing. It also, some people like to see the cameras because then they're seeing at least a little bit of reaction. But we need to make sure that it's the same for everyone. So if you're gonna ask everyone to turn their cameras off, make sure everyone has their cameras off the whole time.
Okay, and then then the host is going to mute them. So, I mean,
The
if
host
they
can
were,
mute them, or the host
we-
can ask everyone to mute themselves.
if we were in a meeting, for example, when we do a joke at the end of the meeting, we ask people to unmute themselves so that the laughter can be heard.
Right. The problem is that there could be a lot of other noise other than just the laughter.
Mhm. Well, I've
So
noticed
it is a challenge. Yeah, it is a challenge, I know.
I've noticed that if you've got it on speaker view, but it's not the host that has highlighted the speaker, that if somebody accidentally forgets to mute themselves, well, then they may pop in if they made a movement or they made even the slightest sound in the middle of a speech.
Right.
And it's very disconcerting. And I know they don't mean to do it. They just forgot to mute themselves.
Right, and the judges, need to be able to see the speech from beginning to end all the way. Now, you might not be able to tell here, I'm in my office, so this is not my normal setup or my preferred setup. I'm in my work office, but I'm standing up. I know a lot of people tend to participate sitting down. If you're going to be a participant, I would suggest standing up, working with your camera. I can go way back here. I would probably need a microphone so that you can hear me. I'm trying to talk loud enough so you can hear me now. But if I'm back this far, I can actually gesture. I can move. I can move way over here. And I can come in closer. I can use a lot of the stage. So basically your stage is going to be whatever your camera allows your stage to be. Now, it is okay to have things in the background. It's okay to use props. It's okay to have a virtual background. I would not recommend a virtual background because it can be kind of wonky when you're moving around. But it's okay. All of those things are considered props. And I understand we don't all start with the same stage, but just consider that we all have the camera and whatever you have behind you is a prop. Again, I would suggest that you go look at some of the speeches that were on the International Speech Contest because some of them use props, some of them use the stage very well, some of them use the camera very well.
Hey, Carrie,
Yeah.
can you hear
Hi,
me? This is Ben.
Yeah.
One thing I totally agree with what you said about people standing up, and I do the same thing when I'm mostly in a meeting. In addition to what you just said about standing up so you could use the stage effectively, and you notice the good presenters do that, I recommend you use a headset because you'll notice when I'm in close, I sound the same to you as I do when I'm over here, stage left, and that's because the microphone's right here.
Right.
If you're going to do this, that way your audience can go ahead and hear you, and you don't have to shout.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really well to do that.
And you might want to have a camera other than your laptop camera. They're not very expensive anymore.
Yep.
You can get
Absolutely.
a nice mounted camera that you can put at eye level so that you are looking at the camera and making eye contact. We've done this for months now, but
Yeah.
still the hardest thing is not for me not to look at where your eyes are on the screen, because I want to look at you on the screen, but it looks like I'm not making eye contact with you. Still a
Oh,
hard
wow.
thing for me to do.
It's great for body language to stand and move back and all that. But what it does is it takes the ability to see eye contact away. So you have no clue if that person is looking at you. So that's, how far you get away is something to consider as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you can move around. You can come this close and have some in-person conversations. If you're using the stage, you're going to do that with the stage. You're going to move forward. You're going to move back. You're going to use the whole stage. We don't want to make this into here's how to win the contest. You have to make it your own. You have to decide what looks better and what's going to deliver your message the best. But yeah, it's, for the most part, whatever was successful before is probably going to still be successful. You just have to adapt a little bit.
Terry,
Yeah, hi Sharon.
hi. Hey, did I understand that the first person, the non-host who gets on, does not need the host key? That can just take the host over?
No, if I get on as a host, for example, I can make you a co-host.
Right.
But anybody the only reason I'm the host is because it's my account. The district has 5 accounts, and one of them belongs to the PQD, one of them belongs to the district director. So if I get on and it happens to be my account, it'll automatically make me the host.
Yes, but I understood that so you told Sherry, because she said that she had a host key and she didn't know where to put it.
Yep.
But then I heard you say, if this is what I heard you say, that the first person to get on who was not a host could go into the participants or wherever it is, go to more and claim the host. Is that what I heard?
They can claim the host, but you need the key. You need the key, because as soon as you click claim host, it'll say, what is the host key? And you need to type in that 8-digit number or whatever it is.
All right, that's what I missed, and so I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, and we have already scheduled Division X and contest and all of the Division X area contests on Zoom. So we've got those done. The other divisions have not yet scheduled, but hopefully we're going to get all of those done. It's moving along. It's going to be happening. So I hopefully want you to be excited about this.
One more
Sherry?
comment about the host is that one of the things that's become recommended in my globetrotting thing is that you always have at least one, if not 2 co-hosts, because people get kicked off. And if your host gets kicked off and they're the only one that has control, you have a real issue, because I actually got kicked out of a meeting a few weeks ago, and it was hours. I mean, the internet was down where I was, So if that happens and you're the only host, so if you have 1 or 2 for backup, usually you're probably going to be fairly safe.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And, I'm here in my office. I'm probably not going to get kicked off of a meeting because we have super duper Wi-Fi here. If I'm at home, I get kicked off meetings all the time. So consider that for sure. Consider your Wi-Fi, consider if you need to have a hard line attached rather than Wi-Fi. If there's any place you can go that has better Wi-Fi than what you have at your home.
Okay, Carrie, did Jamie Ward send you a document he and I threw together or not?
No,
you never?
Not yet. I was going to, that's on my list to tell you guys to ship it to me. I'm excited to see
Okay.
it.
It sounded like he hadn't. Okay. That explains a lot. Well, just to speak to what Sherry mentioned, we recommended in that document that is, and it was his assignment. No, we collaborated, and then he was going to email it to you. I'm sure he got very busy. We recommend having more than one person work with the Zoom on a busy contest, because we split up the duties. That way, nobody gets distracted and forgets to do something, and everything just works smoother. To make it go much better. To Sherry's point, we always, in all the meetings that I get to run, I always have at least one co-host, because there's always something that can go wrong. Plus, I tell people, if you got an important meeting you want to get in, you should have 2 ways that you can get into that meeting, on 2 different devices, preferably. Like, for instance, I can use my cellular connection now to connect, or I can use my home internet. Either way, if I really wanted to get back in and you guys boot me out because I'm so bad or something, but you got to
Yeah.
have multiple plans, is my point to take here.
And you can get in with multiple devices.
Absolutely.
As long as you make sure that you mute yourself and all that on all your devices. Our timer does that.
Yeah, we had another whole
our-
set of recommendations around muting audiences and applause and all that stuff. But I apologize for not getting you that document.
No problem.
On time.
And we're, like I said, it's still a work in progress. We're meeting with our area directors and division directors at the end of the month to go over best practices. And some of the best practices, especially on an area level, you might not be able to do. One of the new rules is that the functionaries, which doesn't include the Zoom master because that wasn't one of the functionaries there, but the functionaries cannot overlap. You cannot be a chief judge and a ballot counter. You cannot be, a timer and the contest chair. That seems it seems, why would you do
I want
that?
to be a contestant and a judge.
Well, right. But you can't, but they have specifically said you can't do that. Except they give an out for area, they say, if practicable. Because sometimes in the area you don't have enough people and you're doubling up. But on all the other ones, make sure you have enough people. That's the key thing. Recruiting those people, getting help.
Yeah,
Hey,
we
Carrie,
wanted a paper.
Was that Matthew?
Yeah,
I know
hey, Carrie.
we're at time. Oh,
Hopefully a quick question.
okay.
For the judging and the ballots, how is that going to work with what we are accustomed to, where the ballot counters would collect the ballots and how the judges would give them? So what's the process for that piece of it?
There are a few options, a few recommended methods. There is a way to create a Google Doc that each judge can fill in, that they can only fill in the right 1, 2, 3 for each contestant. And then that doc would go to the chief judge and the ballot counters. Another way that was suggested to me, we had our PQD regional meetings, and some of those people had contests last year. Clearly, a lot of districts had their full contests, and so we get to learn from what they did, right and wrong. Some of them just literally took a picture with their phone of that bottom part of the ballot and texted it to the chief judge, or a group that's the chief judge and the ballot counters. So it doesn't have to be super high tech. However it works, but again, just make sure that top part, throw that away. I would still print it. I like paper to write that stuff down on. If you're an online person, you can do it online, but I would do everything pretty much the way you've done it, with as little as possible adaption, just because we have to.
Okay, thank you.
I know we're a little bit over time, but I want to, is there any other last questions that we can address?
One
I
off.
actually do have a question.
Go ahead,
I,
because I've
I-
talked way too much.
So our club has about 8 members, and that's actively members. And we usually have 3, maybe 4 people that want to compete. So what do we do in this situation? We wouldn't have enough members to actually conduct a speech contest without having the roles kind of flow over and have to be like cross rolled.
Right. Well, I would, if you have more people, now here's another thing to keep in mind. If you are in an area with 4 or fewer clubs in good standing, which other than Division Y here in the Des Moines area, I think almost every area is like that. If you are in that situation, you can send 2 competitors to the area. 2
But I
competitors
mean-
for each.
But I
To
mean, for
each
us to actually
contest.
doing the contest, though, we don't have enough
But yeah.
people to actually.
You can improvise as well as you can.
Okay.
You'll need to, your executive committee will have to figure out how are we going to do it. Maybe make everyone else a judge. If you have 4 competitors and 8 people show up, the other 4 people get to judge and go into a separate room and say, here's what we think. And here's the
Is-
2 best.
Carrie,
And I
I
apo-
had a suggestion for that, for Ashley's question. Something that I've seen other clubs do is to have, if you have another club that you're friendly with, try combining the club contests.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah. Absolutely, that'd be great. And we also can do that with area contests. Now, in each situation, your club members are not competing against the other person's club members, but you can use the other club members to be judges and ballot counters and all those people. So if
Got
you have 4 contestants in a club or an area, those 4 contestants present, they're judged, they're ranked, they're counted, then the next club or area, their contestants go and they're judged and they're ranked and they're counted. So you'll have winners from this club, winners from this club, winners from this area, winners from this area.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Pearl. Thank you.
Well, I know some clubs are using outside judges, from other clubs to come in. In fact, I know at least one club that's going international looking for judges. They're going online at Facebook and asking for judges for their clubs because it's all online. So as long as they're Toastmasters in good standing.
Ask your area director to visit your club that day and be a judge. Ask any other Toastmaster. I know sometimes it's hard, and I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy to find all those people, but do the best you can. Do the best you can.
Well, can I add one thing? Unless you've got 3 people competing in one contest, it's a moot point because you can send 2 people, right?
You can send 2 for humor and 2 for international.
For international, yeah. So do you understand that? I mean, so most of the time, and the club can use any method they want to decide who to send. You can have a contest, you can have a vote, you can have a popularity contest, you can do anything really, but it's best to have a contest for all the reasons Carrie already gave. But you get my point. We don't have to overthink this.
Mm-hmm. Right. And as a club, it's your prerogative. Like Ben said, you can vote. Hopefully you've at least seen their speeches and they can all say, hey, remember that speech I gave last month? That's the one I want. And that might be the best one you can do is have everyone go, yep, I think these people, for whatever reason, are the ones who deserve to go forward. All right. I think we need to wrap up. So Betty, thank you. I'll let you have the final word.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for putting together a great presentation tonight. A lot of great information. shared with us, and we do have some challenges ahead, but I know that we will be successful in coming up to them. The one nice thing that happens when you're going to choose to send people is that instead of worrying about getting all those people together to run your contest, you can actually give them that time to practice their speech. So, there are some benefits to that too, and it can be a practice session for them, and that is always helpful. Thank you all for coming out and joining us tonight. This is one of the biggest groups that we've had. Kira, you put together an excellent presentation, and I encourage you to come back and join us next month in February. And I'm not going to announce who will be presenting because we haven't had the conversations yet on exactly what it's going to cover. And I don't want to spoil whatever might come of what it is they're going to put together to present, but it should be a team of people. I'll give you that hint. So we'll see you in February. Good luck with your preparation for your contest. And we look forward to seeing those of you that will be at the deck meeting in January. So we wish you all good night and have a good evening.
All right, good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming. Great. Great to have so much interaction.
Good night.
Great job, Gary.
Thanks,
Good job,
Thank you.
Carrie.
Mhm.
Thank you, Carrie.
I'll talk to Jamie about getting